In today's video, we're going to talk about how to hear compression. This is one of those topics that new mixers always struggle with, where they can't hear the movement of a song or how the compressor's reacting to the music. So in this video, I'm going to demystify the sound of compression so that anybody, if you're new or experienced, can hear what the different styles of compression sound like. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Bobby Balo, and I'm the mixing and mastering engineer at Raytown Productions. If you're new here, thank you so much for being here today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because I drop new videos every single week to help you level up the quality of your music. And as a thank you for your time today, I have a special gift for you. In the description is a link to download my Compression 101 ebook. It's totally free, and if you like what you saw in this video, it's a great resource to complement that. It's going to help you dial in compressors for all sorts of different instruments and sources. So if that sounds interesting to you, go and take a look in the description below and download your free copy. Here we are in a session, and as promised, we're going to listen to how compressors react on a lot of different sources. We're going to start with the simplest one, which is this one by Waves. This is the Waves C1 compressor. And I actually really like this compressor, and people don't give it enough credit for some reason. But anytime we want to hear the sound of a compressor or what it's doing, you can't just baby the settings. You have to be super aggressive, or it's going to be too hard to really hear it, okay? So what I suggest doing is set a really aggressive ratio, like 20-to-1 or 50-to-1, or just something really high, okay? Set your attack to be as fast as possible, and then set a pretty long release, like at least 500 to 800 milliseconds. This is going to be the most aggressive settings that you can have on a compressor, so you really hear how it changes and sculpts the sound of the audio. Okay, so we're going to start with the threshold set to 0, so it's not going to do any compression, and we're just going to play this drum loop. So here there's this nice full deep extension of the bass, and then we have those hi-hats and snare drum that just kind of have a nice snap to them. Let's start digging into the audio by pulling down on this threshold and listen to what happens to the drums. You're going to notice there's going to be some changes. Here we go. Okay, and we want to be this aggressive, okay? And so let me bring back some of the volume so you can hear it. Let's lower this release time and see what it does as you make it faster and faster. So right here, we're getting to the point where it seems like the drums are being like rubber band back and forth to the listener, right? It gets pushed way back when the kick drum hits, and that's where we do the most gain reduction, and then it swells into the listener in between those kick drum hits. Listen. Okay, it's like a swishing sound. It's kind of like a EDM or a dance track where you have this really big pumpy sound. Okay, that is the movement of this compressor. Now, to dial in this compressor so it sounds the best for your specific drum loops, we're going to start by opening up the attack. Okay, the attack is going to tell us how much punch to let through on this compressor. So let's go until we start getting a little bit more of that kick drum sound back, okay? Because right now with this compressor set this way, we're losing all of the power. There's no low energy. Here we go. Okay, right here, now we're getting the snap of those hi-hats back, okay? And a little bit of the snare drum. Let's keep going. Now we're getting a little bit of the top end of the kick drum, but we're missing all of the sub information. I'm going to lower this volume because it's really loud right now. Here we go. So right here, we're getting the full body of the snare. Let's keep going because I'm still missing that sub bass from the kick. Right there. Right at about 100 milliseconds, we're starting to get that deep low end extension from the kick drum. If we go back, We lose it right here. Just dial it back. Okay, right? Yeah, right here it has this nice thump to it, okay? Now, the next step is going to be adjusting the release so that that springing back and forth, that movement is dialed in so it's more rhythmic to this specific tempo of this drum loop, okay? So we're going to adjust this so it feels like it's kind of breathing with the drums. Really, really fast releases like this make it sound a little bit flatter and not so rhythmic. So if you're going for just control over the drum sample, this is a great way to do it, is just having a faster release. If we want to add a little bit more movement and rhythm, let's open up this release and make it a little bit longer. So right here, I don't really like how this sounds, right? It's too pumpy sounding. This release is taking too long to go back to its original level, so we need to make it a little bit faster to make it kind of beat with the song. So like right about here, right? It has this good feel to it. Now the last step is to just adjust our threshold so that we're doing just the amount of control that we want for this drum loop. Here we go. Right there feels awesome. Okay, let's bypass and see what we've done. You can hear the drums now have a little bit of movement and they're a little bit tighter sounding, but they still have the punch in the snap that the original loop had, and that's so important. And that all comes down to how you set up the compressor, okay? If you feel like you have too much control over the track, let's adjust the ratio knob and let a little bit more of that natural punch come through. This is gonna help increase our transients and make it a little bit snappier, a little bit punchier. Okay, so let's go and reduce this ratio. Cool. So that's the basic premise for dialing in a compressor. Now let's go through and listen to what several different styles of compressors sound like on these different sources. All right, so we're going to start with C1. We're just going to make this super aggressive again. So fast attack, long release, like 500 milliseconds, so we can feel the movement. And then we're going to bite down into the threshold. So here we go. Here's that drum loop again. Without it. Cool, let's listen to this melody. We're going to start with without it. So this is bypassed. With it. So let's adjust the attack and release settings to make it pump a little bit better, and then also add a little bit more of the initial transient back. Cool. I'm going to just reduce threshold without it. With it. This sound source is really hard to hear the compression once you've backed off on those settings. So to get it dialed in the right way initially, you're going to want to be really, really, really aggressive with these settings. And then just back it off like I showed in the last example. Okay, let's listen to another loop. Let's bypass this compressor. With it. Let's be aggressive with the settings. So this is a great example of when you've gone too far with your compressor, right? We lose all of that nice attack and the snap in the beginning of each note. So let's back off on the release, make it a little faster, and then we're going to open up the attack to let that transient come through. Nice. Without. With. So the compressor makes it just feel a little bit more interesting, right? It gives it a little bit more life. It's got a little bit of movement. This is a great setting for something like that. Let's try this. Yeah, I know it's annoying, but it's going to be a great example. Okay, with it. Without. So again, we have that really pumpy feeling to it again. It almost sounds like an EDM track. So let's back off on the ratio. Okay, with it. Without. With it. Let's add some of that attack back. Give us that transient. Cool, right there. Speed up the release. To pump a little more. Let's back off the threshold. So now it has a little bit of a bounce to it, right? We're getting a little bit more ambience. It feels more alive. All right, let's hear a compressor on a full mix now. So this is a song that I mastered by a band called Pulses. They're out of the Washington, D.C. area. Super fun band. If you do like this track and you want to find out more about this band, there's a link to all of their stuff in the description. So definitely go and support them. Okay, so this is without anything. So let's make this really aggressive again. Fast attack, longer release. And let's see what it does to the song. Here we go. So you hear that it just like feels really small, compressed, and it doesn't have any life, okay? But hopefully you're able to hear that there's a certain movement to the music, especially when the kick drum hits and the feeling of it ducking in. So let's go and adjust the attack and open it up a little bit. Cool. So now we're letting that kick drum come through. We're losing some of that crazy movement that we had that didn't feel right. Let's adjust release. So listen to the snare drum. You can really hear the movement. So it's really snappy and pumpy still. That's okay the way it's set up. We just have to reduce our ratio and then set the threshold so that it's just small. Right now it's kind of pumping in a musical way, so I kind of want to keep it. So let's reduce this ratio. And if we bite into it again really aggressively, you can hear the movement this compressor's adding. So it's just a little bit of like snap on all the transients, which I think helps to make the song hit a little bit harder. So that's the sound of the Wave C1 on a complete mix. So let's go through and listen to some of the other compressors that we have available that have a little bit different sound. And I'm not going to talk so you can just hear the settings for yourself, but I'm going to set these all really aggressively so you can listen to the movement each has and then kind of identify which ones you like the most. So the first one we just listened to is Waves C1. The next one we're going to listen to is Waves SSL Comp. This is a really cool VCA style compressor. Then the next one that we'll listen to is by IK Multimedia. This is the T-Rax Dynamu compressor. This is what is considered a variable mu compressor. So it changes the ratio depending on the input signal. So it's really, really cool sound, very spongy to me. I really like this one for mastering. We'll check out the Waves Abbey Road RS124. This compressor is like my go-to gluing compressor. So you'll hear how it really shines on a dense mix like what we just listened to. And then finally, we have the Puig Child 670 by Waves. So this is also a very famous compressor, and it's going to have a little bit softer characteristics to it, maybe not hit so aggressively. Great for glue, in my opinion. So let's go through one by one so you can hear how each of these sounds on the different tracks that we have. Here we go. So hopefully you're able to hear all the different types of movement that you can create using these compressors in these really extreme settings. Now, when you go to use a compressor on your next song or on your individual instruments, set it up in an aggressive way so that you could really hear the flavor of the compressor and then dial it back in the order that I showed in this video. Now, getting these settings right on all of your tracks really makes a big difference in the end. So it's really important to go through and systematically listen to each individual track, dial in the right movement, and then tune it for the song. Now, I'd love to hear from you about what types of compressors you use and how you approach setting compression in your music. So drop me a comment below and let's start a conversation. Now, if I left out some compressors that you love to use on your music, be sure to tell me also in the comments. I want to remind you about my free ebook on compression that I have in the description. So if you want to go a little bit further into how to set up compressors for all different types of instruments, there is all that information in that ebook. Again, there's a free download in the description. If you thought this was helpful, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and share this video with some of your friends or post it to social media groups like Facebook or Reddit. That would really mean a lot to me. With that, I want to thank you, as always, for your time and attention today. My name is Bobby Balo, and I hope to see you in another video.